Hey everybody, and welcome back to Split Couch Games. I'm Scott,
And I'm Ben.
and this is Couchcast number 67. We're talking about a couple of interesting topics. First topic we're going to talk about is we mentioned before that Madden NFL 2018 was nominated by the Writers Guild of America for its long shot story mode as in the best writing category. Ended up not winning. But I ended up playing it this past weekend, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, this part is going to be more of the Scott cast than it is the Couch cast, because I didn't play it, and I have no interest in playing it, so my opinions are going to be minimal.
I think you're going to have some questions. It's an interesting thing. So anyway, and then we're going to launch into kind of talking about balancing in games and whether or not something can be OP if it's difficult to master. Whether that's like okay if it's like super strong, but it takes a lot of skill to use. And we're probably going to branch that off into a bunch of other things as well, as we normally do.
Yeah, because staying on topic is hard.
It is. It really is. Anyway, so Madden 2018, the long shot story mode. It started off real good. Like, real talk, I was hooked in like the first scene. Because it had the actor who played the bad guy in Luke Cage and was the main guy in Moonlight, which is
Sure.
Oscar-winning movie, I think, from 2018, 2016.
Well, I have seen neither of those, so...
Well, he's a really good actor, and he was playing the main character's dad. And I was just like, oh, okay, this performance capture is amazing. And like, it just started off with like this cute little scene where it was the main character, his best friend, and his dad, and they were playing some backyard football.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it immediately brought me back to, me having a catch with my dad in the backyard and all that. So it really hit the nostalgia. And like, then it really like, the whole pacing and everything of the story was really good. Albeit like, it was a little bit like, I know you don't watch a lot of sports movies, obviously, but like, it's kind of a cliche sports movie kind of feel to it, where it's definitely not as much about football as it is about the relationships of the people playing football.
So it's more like Angels in the Outfield than what it is Space Jam.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are two movies I did not expect to be talking about, but yeah.
Those are like the only sports movies I've ever watched.
I mean, you watched two good ones. Very different movies, but Angels in the Outfield was one of my favorite movies growing up. Great movie.
It was a good movie.
Young Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's pretty crazy. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, like, all good sports movies are not about the sports, but it's about, like, the relationships. Like, Remember the Titans, great movie. Not about football at all. But, yeah, so... But then it kind of hits this point where it starts being about football. And that really kind of ruined the momentum it had. Mm-hmm. And like to give you an idea of what the gameplay is, it's much more of a like Telltale game than it is like a Madden game, right? Like,
okay,
most of it is like you're choosing between two different conversation trees.
Yeah.
And then like the gameplay is like, for the first bit of it, like the most, it's like you throw a pass and then you have to like guide the ball to the receiver.
Okay.
So you're like, that's kind of weird. And then like the extent of like football playing is like your receiver will be running around and you have to throw the ball to him, and there's like a circle in front of him and you have to like get your marker to that, and then you have to press the button prompt to like complete the pass.
Sure.
So like up until that, like for the first, I would say like 30% of it is actually like really good, like really nice. And like, I think even like you could enjoy it. But then it gets to the part where it's actually about football. And it really kind of changes the whole thing to where it's like you have to like you're basically like your character has been out of football for a few years and is trying to make it into the NFL. So he's got to kind of relearn a whole bunch of stuff. So you get asked a bunch of questions about football. And that's where it kind of lost me, even though like I know some things about football and I was able to answer most of the questions. I'm just kind of like, I don't want to do this. I want to go back to the actual like story with the friend and his dad and all that. Because that's where I was interested in.
Yeah.
But like the entire middle portion of the game was just kind of like this like football stuff, and it kind of threw me off. Like it was there clearly because Madden's for football fans, so like they're probably like, yeah, this is awesome, because you definitely get to like see inside what it's like to be a quarterback and like going through film and stuff of games and like learning from mistakes and everything like that, and that's kind of cool. But it's also like not interesting if you don't care about football enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the whole thing, I think that like a good probably like 60% of the story is really good. And I think like unfortunately because it is a Madden game, like you have to have like the football aspect to it. So like I don't blame it for that. I don't think it necessarily takes away from anything for football fans. But like I wouldn't recommend it to you anymore. Like like the first like 30% of it, I was like, man, I'm gonna recommend Ben plays this game because I think he'll enjoy like the story. But I don't think you could like live with yourself making it through the football portion of it.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Just because I mean, and this obviously doesn't really matter, but I don't sports ball.
Yeah.
I don't hand egg. I don't handball. I don't, do stickball. Nothing.
Yep. Which is like I said, like the portions that were not football, I think were great for everyone. I think that's super awesome and all that, but definitely left a little bit to be desired. And then I also felt like the end. There's like 2 or 3 endings, and they sort of don't really like your choices don't really impact them. It's really just like the last scene impacts what happens. So if you do end up
like Mass Effect 3 kind of ending.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like there's a little like I think that like your choices do impact a little bit, but for the most part, it really just comes down to the last decision. But you don't really know what that is going to impact even. So
interesting.
Yeah. It basically all comes down to like the last play of the game and like whether you choose to do one thing or another thing. And then
there's you lose, and then there's you win, and then there's you win, but you got hit by a truck at the end, so now you're crippled for life. But you won. No.
That's the ending of Remember the Titans.
Oh. Okay.
Spoiler alert. But no, yeah, like I mean, the one thing I did enjoy is that like because you're trying to get drafted, but it doesn't like there is no like stereotypical like oh my god he's going as the first draft pick, like no, like if you end up getting drafted, you are like at the bottom of the pile, like you're not like a star, which was kind of like it was kind of cool to see that as opposed to like usually it's like oh the hero of the story gets picked number 1 and he's gonna go and be a famous quarterback. That's not what's gonna happen for this guy.
Yeah,
like he's got to work hard and like they even kind of like Madden has a you can create your own character mode and play through a career that way. So what they did is at the end is like, do you want to continue Devin Wade's career in that mode?
Interesting.
So like that was kind of a cool tie-in to get into that mode as well. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, good writing. There was actually like a lot of like really intense moments that I was like, holy shit, I don't want to deal with this right now. Like kind of like emotional stuff.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I think I'm surprised that it got nominated because of like all the football stuff that gets in the way, but it's the like Writers Guild of America, and Americans love football, so I guess like it's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, they're also judging the writing, not the gameplay. So, and I
Yeah,
mean,
but
if
the writing, like,
if the football stuff is all like gameplay oriented,
no,
they're
well, maybe.
yeah. I mean, they're
I don't
not
know.
really going to look at that.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
yeah, but I think like just from what I know, I think Horizon definitely deserved it over it, and probably even like the other games that were nominated.
Yeah, I mean,
So.
I haven't played Horizon yet,
Mm-hmm.
but from what little bit of it that I have been exposed to through Marcy playing it has been quite enjoyable. I felt like there were a few moments where it was definitely a little stereotypical, but I think most of those were like random side quests and not actually part of the story.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to say for sure either way, since I'm not I'm not actually the one playing, and I'm just kind of like passively observing. You know, it's like I might catch a cutscene here or there or something like that, and that's it.
Yeah.
So,
And I guess like I just looked at it again. The actual nomination is for outstanding achievement in video game writing. So you can make the argument that like, you know, putting a story mode in a football game is a pretty outstanding achievement.
yeah.
So I don't know. I get it. And like if you guys have any interest in football whatsoever, I think it's probably a pretty good thing for you to play. It's entertaining. It
If
took
you
me
care
about
about stories.
4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, I think, somewhere in there. If you're better at football, you'll get through it faster. But yeah, that's about it. It's a telltale football game
Basically.
until it's
yeah.
not, which you actually do like kind of play like a Madden game after a little bit. Is what it is. Anyway, so on to the real topic.
Now that we've spent nearly half the podcast talking about that.
Yay! I mean, you know, that's what it is.
Anyways, so
Yeah.
the real topic, as you put it, you had said, all right, and we are back. We had a little hiccup there because the Skype call apparently just decided to end all on its little lonesome. Neither of us touched anything, and the call just stopped. So we couldn't hear each other anymore.
Yep.
So, like I was saying, the real topic, as you put it, it was something that you kind of brought up the other day, which was, you know, whether or not something that is overpowered should be considered fair if it takes a lot of skill and or time to master.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that I know what your thoughts are, but I could be wrong.
You're probably wrong,
So-
actually. I'm
so
curious.
why
What do
don't-
you think? What do you think my thoughts are?
I think that you are probably in the camp of hey, don't jump on the computer, cat. I am imagining that you're in the camp of people that are okay with that. Of, you know, it's like, well, you know, if it takes a lot of time and skill to master, then like that should be like the reward basically for putting in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not where you are?
That's not where I am.
Really? That's
Yeah.
interesting. We're gonna
well-
agree.
I mean,
This is weird.
I'm not entirely on that, but it really kind of depends on what it is. But anyway, we'll get into that as we go. Why don't you give me your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't frankly think that that's having anything be overpowered, no matter how long it may take to master said thing and achieve the level of skill with it that makes it overpowered.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of that aside, I don't think it's ever a good idea, simply from a game design standpoint, to design something to be intentionally overpowered. And that is the case, in my opinion, primarily because what you'll end up having happen is you'll have, maybe like let's say 10% of your population or whatever on the game, assuming we're talking PvP here.
Sure, yeah.
Like 10% get really good with this thing. And that top 10% is going to make the bottom 90% not want to play the game anymore. And that's going to kill the game.
Yeah.
Because if I'm a filthy fucking casual. With every game I've ever played, I have always been what you can consider a casual. I got really into Overwatch for a little bit, and probably easily could have gotten up to platinum or diamond if I really, really tried.
Yeah.
But I didn't, and I've kind of fallen off that bandwagon. I've played Overwatch maybe twice within the last 2 or 3 months. And yeah, that's where I am. And if Overwatch had some golden gun, if you will, that made it that much less enjoyable for me to hop in and play every now and then I would probably just straight up uninstall it and never play it again. And considering with a lot of games like that, the casual base is what keeps it going. I can't imagine that would be a good thing. Because, I mean, even in Gears of War, I feel like the majority of the population falls more into the casual category.
Sure. I mean, I think that that's the same for every game, really, right? Because a majority of the people making up a population are going to be casual players who play for fun and don't take it too seriously, like some people we may know.
Who are you talking about there, Scott?
No one.
No?
No, not me. I don't take PvP games too seriously. Never. Never. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely agree with you in that it doesn't. I think that there's a spectrum, I guess is what I would say, is because yes, there are certain things that are. I think that there's going to be strengths, but they have to have counters, right? And there needs to be a payoff for putting in time to learn something. Where in Gears, if you put in the time and you learn how to wall bounce, then you have an advantage. But because of the way the game is designed, I don't think that advantage is unbeatable, right?
Sure.
So I think
but I mean, that's more of a mechanical advantage that comes, and I mean that's going to be the case with literally every game out there. And I mean, I could be wrong, but when you first introduced the topic, I thought we were talking specifically about maybe weapons specifically, not necessarily mechanics and that kind of thing. Because I mean, to be perfectly honest, I feel like, and this may not make sense to you because you actually do chess stuff on a not professional level, but you play it and you're ranked and everything.
Competitive level. Yeah,
competitive level. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. IR smart. But to me, a mechanical advantage is simply knowing more. What's the term? More openings and how to kind of change from one opening into another strategy.
Sure.
That's something that will come just by playing chess for years and years and years. You're gonna get better at that.
Yeah.
Whereas what I feel like we would be talking about is more oh well, there's this one thing that if you learn how to do it, you turn every piece on the board into a queen.
Yeah. And I mean, Gears is a weird thing because it's a shooter first for a lot of people, but I see it as movement simulator almost so I do consider movement to be a weapon in a way, but that's kind of how I think about the game. But yeah, let's look at Overwatch. If you're good with Hanzo, right? Let's say you can like headshot everyone. You've put in, hundreds of hours with Hanzo, you can headshot everyone. Does that make him overpowered?
No.
Probably not, right? Because there's things you can do to avoid him. But what if I don't know, it's hard to say. Like, what if they upped his damage so that he could one-shot some Roadhog? It's a lot of health, obviously. It's like, just kind of like, you get where I'm going with this. Like, I'm not saying like necessarily these examples, but like, you up his damage so you can one-shot more people, but maybe they add a little bit more arc to his bow or something like that, to where like it's harder to do, but there's more payoff. At what point does that payoff become inexcusable?
Pretty much at the point that you're talking about, I think. I mean, unless they went the route of, well, Roadhog and other tanks are especially weak against Hanzo, so they have a specific damage scaler when receiving damage from Hanzo. I guess it depends on if you're talking about like changing his bow so that it simply does more damage to tanks, so he's like an anti-tank type of character, versus if you were changing his damage output across the board so that like, he one-shot headshots tanks now, but like he can literally shoot someone else in the toe and it kills them.
Well, let's just call it like headshot damage. His headshot damage is increased to insta kill, but anything else does 25% less, or 25% damage of what it does now. So like, you have to get a headshot. But if you're really good at getting headshots, then you're gonna just demolish everyone.
I honestly, I don't know how I feel about that.
Okay. So then we're at like, we're at like a kind of interesting discussion then, because you don't know what you're thinking. So walk us through it.
The main reason I don't know how I feel about it is because that does obviously take a tremendous amount more skill, and in a game like Overwatch, it is the population is so large that there are clearly defined groups, and anybody can go onto the internet and look up, like some ridiculous montages of Hanzo play. Like, those are out there and they exist. So there are people that are that good with Hanzo that they could just fucking destroy everything. And there would still be ways to effectively counter him, I think. But I don't know that... I wouldn't like that, I think, primarily because it completely removes him as a viable character option in, like, the bottom 95%.
Interesting. All right. Yeah.
Because, I mean, realistically, your average person, like, anybody from, like, bronze all the way up through probably even platinum, are only going to be getting, like, maybe at best 25% crit shots.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is going to be them missing or something like that, so it just takes even more time for them to actually get a shot off and get a kill and that kind of thing.
That's actually a really interesting way of putting it, right? Is if you make something too difficult, and even though there's a giant payoff, then it's not interesting for people who don't put that time in. Like, there's almost like too much of a skill gap there. And I think that's a very interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Because my answer to the question was going to be that I don't like it because there's not enough counterplay to that. Like, yes, like, you can, like, set up yourself to, flank him or whatever. Like, obviously I'm not an Overwatch player to the point where, like, I can explain, like, exactly how you would go about countering it. But if Hanzo sees you and he gets you, like, you die instantly, that's not enjoyable. There's not, like...
Yeah.
It has to be, like, it's a weird thing to say, but, like, it has to be fun to lose to a character as well as to beat that character.
Definitely. I mean, and that's a very important element of game design that a lot of people forget about.
Yeah.
You know, most people will go into something, and I mean, heck, I'm sure you and I both have plenty of memories of when we were kids playing our favorite games and everything, going like, "Oh man, wouldn't it be cool if blah 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 blah?" It was like, why does an XYZ developer do this? They're so stupid. That would be so fun. Well, yeah, I mean, it might be fun for you, but like, it wouldn't be fun for the people on the receiving end of that thing.
Yeah.
And you are definitely correct in that it wouldn't be fun to lose to that, and there aren't nearly as many viable counterplay options. Knowing as much as what I do about Overwatch, the easiest and most likely counter to a Hanzo in that situation would be a diva. Just because she can fly and shoot micro missiles with her defense matrix up.
Yeah.
Granted, her head hitbox is the size of a fucking tank, but you know, she also gets 2 lives, and then her head hitbox turns into a fucking raisin. So
yeah,
you know, but
yeah,
I don't think that would be fun. And more to the point, to go back to the generality of it, I don't think having a high skill OP scenario in anything would really be all that fun, unless we're talking like a single player PvE style experience.
Sure.
Because I mean, like a game like Crackdown, you know, if you dump tons and tons of hours into it, max out all your skills, you're just going to be flying through the air, fucking one-shotting everything. And that's a glorious time. Yeah. I remember doing that in the first game. It was some of the most entertaining, ridiculously stupid fun I've had in a video game. Yeah. Probably to this date. But in a PvP situation, I don't think having anything intentionally being overpowered is ever really a good direction to go. Because even no matter how much you try to balance it, you're either going to nerf it to the point where it's no longer OP, or it's going to be something that's kind of like that divisive thing in a community that potentially drains the community.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty much where I'm at, where I think like it's definitely a tough balancing act. Yeah. But you know, I do, because of the way that I play games, especially, you know, Gears and stuff, I enjoy those higher skill gap mechanics. But you definitely have to reward players for putting that time in and learning that. But you can't make it so strong that it's becomes the only thing that matters or isn't fun to play against. Like even if like you like in Gears, going back to it, like there are some players who can wall bounce ridiculously fast, and that's great for them, but it's also incredibly easy to counter them because you can literally just stand there and shoot them while they do it. Like, so like there's counterplay that is fun, as well as it's fun for them to do it, and I think that's a good balance.
I honestly think the best example of a weapon that is ridiculously overpowered and should have never probably been put into the game outside of like for sheer lulz factor. Did you ever play Perfect Dark?
No.
Okay. Well, the very first Perfect Dark, so the one on the Nintendo 64, had a game called, or not a game, a weapon called the Farsight. I think there was like some sort of like alphanumerical name after it, like the Farsight X37 or something, but I always refer to it as the Farsight. It was an alien sniper rifle that could see and shoot through walls. And I don't mean like a couple of walls, and then
Yeah.
like, you know, beyond that it stops. No, like you could literally be on one side of the level sitting in a corner and then just like turn on your special target tracking scope that will automatically find and follow targets and just shoot people literally through the map. It was
Okay, but like if it's there's no skill in that, right? Because it's auto tracking. What if you had to account for like each wall, it like decreases the bullet velocity by like 5%, and then like you have to like adjust accordingly? Is that okay?
Well, no. Honestly, if there's ever anything that just gives you the ability to shoot through walls and see through walls like that, no. Like, the only way that would be acceptable is if, like, there's a guy hiding in a plywood shack and I have, like, high density thermal vision or something, I don't know. Or, you know, he's hiding behind, like, a tarp. Poo-poo, you know, I killed him through the tarp. Yay, win. Like, that's okay. But when we're talking about... Because one of my favorite things to do when I was a kid was... the challenges in that multiplayer game would be like, you know, here's a specific setup, you know, like unique rules and specific bots and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like beat it and do the best that you can. And one of my favorite ones was, I don't remember what it was called, but it was a challenge where it was only far sights and unlimited ammo. But it was like you against like 12 other bots. So the challenge there was like you can only shoot so fast and you can only track targets so quickly. So you had to basically constantly keep like half an eye on the guys that are coming close to you while you're killing as many as you can.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean... I don't think there would be any amount of balancing to that gun that you could do to make it fair.
Yeah.
No, unless it was literally like a timed battlefield pickup so that like it only shows up maybe like 2 or 3 times during a match and it has like 2 bullets or something.
Ben, you're balancing it. It's no longer OP. Stop.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is like that would be the only way you can make a gun like that.
I think
fair.
that's what we kind of discovered during this conversation. Is like we talked about it from both sides, whether you're a player that's just picking up the game, or someone who's dedicated like thousands of hours to it. Games are only fun if they're balanced. Like, yeah, like you can have your moments where like you can be super overpowered and like, you know, destroy everyone with something, but like that's gonna get old fairly quickly. So yeah, that's why, you know, balancing is so important in games, and I think that that's what we talked about. Like, you know, if you guys have an example of something that's OP that like actually worked in a game, let us know in the comments. Right? Like,
and make sure that it's like actually OP, not just like it's an OP thing, but it has all these other factors that make it not OP.
Yeah.
So like it can't be like, oh well, there's this one thing that drops once a game, but it kills everything in one shot. Well, it only drops once a game, and you get like 2 bullets, so that's balanced. You know.
Yeah. So. Like, I mean, like think about like the rocket launcher in Halo, right? Like, rocket launcher in Halo is like a guaranteed 2 kills, 4 kills. 4 kills, but like it depends. I think some games it has 2, some games it has 4.
Yeah, I think in Halo 2 it was 2, but then in Halo 2 I think it was 4, and then Halo 3 and Reach I think it was only 2. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think they changed it. I could.
But yeah, it's like the rocket launcher. It always spawned like kind of in a very exposed area. Or like down low, so like like
very exposed, like easily accessible from multiple different avenues, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then like sword, you got them, and then like
spawned.
Yeah, and then there were still counters, and if you like, yeah, it was just well designed, to be honest.
Yeah.
Anyway, Getting kind of long here. Ben's got to edit this, so each minute is like another like 20 minutes of export time for him. So we'll wrap this up here. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you guys next time on Split Couch Games.
Yep. Bye.
Bye. I was just waiting for you to say goodbye. You usually follow up.
Yeah. I followed it up as soon as I heard you, but you visually you have been frozen for about 15-20 seconds now, and
Excellent.
Your voice was cutting in and out. So.
All right. Well.